All right, so good evening. Will I be the right thing to say? Okay, so welcome to today's exciting um, program. My name is Mamu with Jarvis, and you're on to the Success Mystery series, examination success series. And today we'll be looking at the mathematics SSCE experience. So I will trust that just to be sure that we're all on the same page, I want us to be sure that we're all on the same page. So I will trust that you're watching this. We should be live already on YouTube. So we'll just do a quick confirmation on that. And after that, we will hit the road with what we have for tonight. Okay, so let's just do a quick check. Um, I'll be sure that we are on. And once I have confirmation that I'm on, we will hit the road. Okay, yes, I have confirmation that I am on. So I think we are good to go. All right, so once again, you're welcome to um, Success Mystery. This is powered by Mamu with Jarvis. I am a YouTube creator. I create content for mathematics, have vast knowledge in chemistry and physics, but I have a strong passion for mathematics. And if you followed us, we've been on a series trying to unlock and to help students make an exceptional to have an exceptional experience this year. All right, so for tonight, we will be looking at the WAEC, or what you may call the WASSCE mathematics structure. WASSCE is taken by students who are in West Africa, and it's a very important external exam taken in West Africa for students to determine whether they're going to get into the university as well. But my focus tonight will be on trying to look at the West African examination and to see how we can help students to tactically prepare for this. I've always said that it's not enough for you to have covered your skills. Sorry about that. I hope you've been hearing me. I've often said that it's not enough. Maybe I'll take that again. I think, okay, I've often said that it's important, it's not just enough for you to cover your skill, but more importantly, it is for you to have a tactical approach. You should be able to look at exams and be able to recognize the questions as they come in that exam. The questions that come in that exam, are you able to recognize them? So once again, you're on to the mathematics multiverse. This is the success mystery series, and we are looking at the WAEC mathematics exam. As a case model for tonight, we're looking at the just concluded SSCE exam 2023 mathematics. The exam is the results are out and people have seen how well they have fared. But our focus tonight will be, or today, if you choose to use that, will be to look at what is the basic structure of this exam. Now, the WAEC mathematics exam, for me, using the MAMU experience, is broken down into three key aspects. But before we talk about that, it's important for you to note that the WAEC exam, essentially mathematics, has 50 OBJ questions. 50 OBJ questions broken down into three key aspects: arithmetic, algebra, and geometry. Arithmetic, algebra, and geometry. Also, I've chosen to arrange the questions for you to be able to understand what's happening. Now, 50 OBJ questions will translate to 17 arithmetic questions, 18 algebra questions, and 15 geometry questions. I'll come again: 17 arithmetic questions, 18 algebra questions, and 15 geometry questions. Now, it's important for you to understand the nomenclature I have used. In a number of classes I've taken, I've tried to explain that the structure some examiners may have, the structure or analysis some persons may have done or taken may not be the same as what I am doing. For instance, I have a way of classifying, for instance, I have a way of classifying my algebra. Okay, what's the challenge? Okay, so I'm still on course. So for instance, I have a way of classifying, doing my own classification. I technically will always leave logarithm to arithmetic as I've done in this analysis, and I've left out indices. I've moved indices to algebra. So I'll quickly do a breakdown of what to expect in these 50 OBJ questions. Now, I remember I said that there are 17 arithmetic questions. There are what? 17 arithmetic questions. So 17 arithmetic questions will translate to one question rather from approximation. Approximation will cover things like decimals, sometimes fractions, and the likes. You're going to have one question from what? Sets. There's two questions from number base, two questions from logarithm, one question from commercial arithmetic. Sometimes we call it commercial arithmetic. You have two questions from what is called percentage error, and we have four questions from statistics, one question from logical reasoning, although in some classification, as set and logic, they are treated together, but I have chosen to separate them here. Two questions from probability and one question from sort. Now, in some exams, these arrangements, in some WAEC exams, this arrangement may not be exactly that way. You may have preference for more questions in some areas than some areas, but at an average, you're going to have between 17, maybe 16, 15 to about 20 questions from arithmetic. But remember that the mix will always be done such that at the end of the day, you have what? 50 questions. Now, if we go to algebra, for algebra, you have two questions from indices. Remember I said that I've classed indices under algebra. Now, we have one question from linear equation. Now, this will just be simple linear equation to solve and get an answer. But sometimes you could have it as a word problem. Now we have one question from difference of two squares. The difference of two squares there, sometimes we can class that under quadratics, but for the purpose of analysis, I've left that to be on its own. Then we have three questions from quadratic equations. Three questions from quadratic equations, taking different shades like roots and the likes. Then we have one question from variation. One question from variation. Usually you have it either as partial, direct, inverse, or joint. Usually they set between direct, inverse, and joint. Rarely will you see partial. Now we have two questions from what is called algebraic fractions. Algebraic fractions. And sometimes in algebraic fractions, you could have something that talks about equating the algebraic fraction to what is called making it undefined, or sometimes you could have it solving and getting the expression out, or sometimes, or rather simplifying the expression. And sometimes you could have something that looks more like a fraction where you have to simplify to get other ratios. Okay. Then we have what is called simultaneous equations. You have two questions from that area, and then you have what is called change of subject or formula, and then you have calculus. In this analysis, I've kept calculus under algebra. So you have two questions from calculus. The WAEC exam is not like the NECO. NECO places a lot of emphasis on pure maths. You have some strong questions from pure maths like differentiation and the likes. But in this exam, these areas were not being explored. So we have two questions from calculus. And what I've called calculus here will be things like coordinate geometry and things, not coordinate geometry, and things like gradient and the likes. Then we have two questions from angle of elevation and depression. We have one question from bearing. So that will give you a summation of 18 questions under algebra. When we come to geometry, what do we expect under geometry? Now, under geometry, you're going to have 15 questions under geometry. 15 questions under geometry. With this nomenclature, we have 6 questions under mensuration. Now, essentially, when we talk of geometry, we have areas like mensuration, we have areas like circle geometry, we have areas like formal geometry, we have trigonometry, we have loci and things like that. There's a question I classed under algebra, but I think that question would have come well under what you may call locus and loci, but no problem. It doesn't really matter. The most important thing is for you to be able to identify and recognize that this is what this question requires you to do, and then you get to work on it. So we said 6 questions from majoration. We have 4 questions from circle geometry. We have 3 questions from formal geometry. Now, while doing my analysis, I'm always very careful to separate circle geometry from formal geometry. Now, when we say circle geometry, essentially circle geometry is an aspect of formal geometry, but I always keep it separate because it enables me to explain what the expectation ought to look like in circle in geometry, as in talking about circle geometry. Circle geometry essentially will look at things like angle at the center equal to we talk about arcs, chords, quadratic, what do you call it? Cyclic chords. Then we'll have things like alternate segments, tangents. Now, these are things we talk about in circle geometry. Now, we have what is called formal geometry. Under formal geometry, we have 3 questions. Now, things you'll be looking at in formal geometry will be things like polygons, things like interior angles, exterior angles of polygons, things like parallel lines being called by transversals, alternate angles, corresponding angles, things like that. Those are things that usually would come under formal geometry. And then we have what is called trigonometry. Trigonometry. Now, in some quarters, I said that I have moved. Now, angle of elevation and depression technically is also trigonometry. So in some analysis, I could decide to add that to trigonometry. So if I add that there, it will mean that the exam almost consists of equal number. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter because usually when you're solving angle of elevation and depression, although it is purely trigonometry, some of the concept of solving it usually will involve using x as the case may be. So that's more like what the structure of the exam should look like. So I'm going to do something interesting now. I want to do something very interesting now. So what I'm going to do right away now will be to try to look at the exam structure. I'm going to try to look at the exam structure and try to help you see what the expectations will look like. It's important for us to be able to look at the exam and to tell what the expectations would look what the expectation would look like. So let's see if that will help us. Let's see if that will help us. Let's see how that helps us. Okay. Now, okay, so sorry, I'm trying to ensure that I have a very clear an obvious view of what I want us to achieve before I start running into details to see what we want to do. Okay, I think I have what I want now. So let's look at it. Now, if you look at this year's question, what you are going to observe, what you're going to observe will be this. I'm going to go question by question. Now, I want you to go and look for NECO 2023 question paper, NECO 2023, sorry, WAEC 2023 question paper, WAEC 2023 question paper, and I will try to look at the analysis. So I will do something quite different today. I'll go question by question. Now, question 1 is essentially approximation. Now, approximation will cover things like decimals, we'll cover things like decimals, things like decimals, what we call fractions, significant figures, decimal numbers, and things like that. That's what this one will essentially cover, right? Now, question 2 essentially is talking about sets. Question 2 is sets. Question 3 is indices. Question four, I called question 4 indices. I called question 4 indices, and then perhaps after this class, I'm going to try to send you. I'm going to try to send a video, or I say a link where you can actually get this question paper and have a thorough, thorough look at what it is here. Right now, question 5 is number-based system. Question 6 is logarithm. Question 7 is what we call linear equation. Question 8 is what is called, question 8 is essentially what is called difference of two squares, application of that concept. Question 9 is quadratic equation, but essentially looking at how you obtain the roots of the equation. Question 10 essentially is talking about variation. Question 10 is talking about variation. Question 11 is algebraic fractions. It's a special type of algebraic fraction. Question 12 is talking about simultaneous equation. Question 13 is roots of the quadratic equation, using that to form the quadratic equation, being given the roots. Question 14 is change of subject of formula. Question 15 essentially is what is called commercial arithmetic. I don't know that I mentioned that in my analysis, but it's actually commercial arithmetic. Okay, I missed that one. It's actually commercial arithmetic. Question 16 is actually your test of mensuration. In fact, this is your test of mensuration in the matter of considering a solid. Considering what? A solid. Question 17 is your circle geometry. Circle geometry. And this one essentially is talking about applying your concept of tangent and possibly alternate segments. Question 18, let's see, question 18 essentially talks about the volume of a sphere. Volume of a sphere. Question 19 is number-based system. Applying number-based system to, using the concept of number-based system to do arrangement of numbers, what we call ranking from smallest to biggest or from biggest to smallest. Now, question 20 essentially is talking about percentage error. Percentage error. Question 21 is your formal geometry, and here you're going to apply the concept of parallel lines, alternate segments. Sorry, what they call alternate angles and the likes. Those are the ideas you're going to apply here. Question 22 essentially is your first question in calculus. You're told to find the equation of the line. So this is more like coordinate geometry. Coordinate geometry. Question 23 is talking about looking for your volume, or giving volume, and you're told to look for height. So it's actually testing your knowledge of solids. 24 essentially is talking about your angle of elevation and depression. You know, this was one I class as algebra, but technically it's actually what we call, sorry about that, it's something what we call trigonometry. Question 25 talks about mean deviation, that is statistics. Question 26, statistics is grouped under arithmetic for the purpose of my work. Now, 26 talks about the interior angles, the interior angle of a regular polygon 6 times the exterior. So this is formal geometry. Question 27 is mensuration. Now, given the diagonals of a square as 12 cm, we are told to find the area of the what? The area of the square. Now, please remember that a square is a special type of rhombus. A square is a special type of rhombus, and there's a formula for that. By the time we try to deal with practical questions, you would get to see that these things are quite easy. But the whole idea is to give you a tactical the whole idea of this exercise is for you to be able to see the questions and recognize what you are expected to do. So question 28 is your logical reasoning. 29 says, what is the name of a triangle whose vertices? That is something close to, we can class that as algebra, graphs, concept of graphs and coordinate system. Question 30 is also another area testing your knowledge of circle geometry. And if you look at that question 30 very well, what you will notice is that it's testing your knowledge of semicircle. Semicircle, that comes under length of arc, chords, and cyclic chords. Now, question 31 talks about trigonometry and the concept that sine alpha is also equal to what? Cos 90 minus alpha. So that's essentially what? Trigonometry. Question 32 talks about probability. 32 is probability. 33 is measuration in the matter of looking for the area of sector and all those properties you have when it comes to circle. Now, 34 is talking about, there's a question that has been answered previously. I talked about a square being a type of a rhombus. And here again, the same type of question is being set in question 34. So you see that in this year, two questions that look alike are being set, but the concepts are the same, but they want to test whether you know that a square is also a rhombus. Look at question 35. 35 talks about the angle of elevation. So that's essentially. So you see that there are two questions for percentage error. 37 essentially is talking about cyclic chord, but take a look at it. You're told to find ORS. So from your knowledge of cyclic chords, you can, or from knowledge of circle geometry, angle at the center equal to 2 times angle at the circumference, you can solve that question. 38 is talking about your concept of what you may call your concept of bearing and distances. 39 is talking about simultaneous equations. So you see that WAEC essentially is not setting too difficult questions for you because they want you to do well. Question 40 is talking about calculating the height of a triangle. I will class that question as a trigonometric question, but you can also treat that question as it's not essentially majoration. So I think I'll just stick to trigonometry. 41 talks about your concept of bearing, your concept of probability, and possibly your concept of sets. Your concept of set and probability. All right, so it's raining heavily here, so if you're struggling to hear me, that's why I'm trying to up sound now. Question 42, 43, and 44 are testing specific areas of your statistics and possibly touching a little into probability, but more importantly, trying also to test your knowledge of percentage and the likes, right? Trying to check whether you understand the concept in statistics. 45 is talking about your concept of logarithm. 45 is testing the laws of logarithm. 46 is also cyclic, what you may call circle geometry, in the matter of angle at the center being equal to 2 times the angle at the circumference. 47 is testing your knowledge of swords. So you must be able to handle swords. 48, although 48 looks more like your logical reasoning, essentially what it is testing there is the concept of quadratic equation. So quadratic equation being structured like that of logical reasoning. Okay, so we go to question 49, and that is testing your knowledge of calculus. I call that calculus because here you're told to find the gradient of the line passing through 2 points. That's very easy. You're given 2 points, and you know that a change in y over a change in x will give you the gradient. And question 50 is testing your knowledge of what? Algebraic fractions. where the term is being equal to 1 over 0. Say find what the value of x given the algebraic fraction, and that it is what? Undefined. So you discover that that's all in this exam. The point I want you to see as I've taken you through this is this. Now, remember that in solving questions in this exam, you must know where to channel your energies to. I've always said it's not about covering the scheme of work. It's about knowing where the questions that will come out will be, and then channeling your energy to that area. So I will leave you with this. Know that these exams are very simple. Let nobody deceive you. These exams are very simple. Let nobody deceive you. All you need to do is to prepare well. When you prepare well, you discover that this exam will be a walkover for you. I'll stop here today, and I'll trust that you've gained so much. I've said a lot. I want you to look out for the remastered copy. If you like what you've seen, please post to your friends, post to your channel. We're on a crusade to improve the quality of maths in this exam period. If you watch carefully, I've taken out time not to solve problems yet. I've spent a lot of time doing a lot of tactical analysis on this exam. I am trusting that in the end of it all, we would have very good results this season. I'll leave you with these words. Success is about starting early. And when you start, is what is called early. Thank you. This is Mamu Jarvis signing out for today. And I trust and I believe you have a wow experience. Don't forget to hook up next week, rather by Saturday, for another exciting edition. But I will leave you, and I'll trust that you will subscribe to my channel. Go to YouTube, Google Mamu with Jarvis, and subscribe to get more content as they come. Peace, and say no to online malpractice. I'll leave you with this. Thank you.